Hello, my name's Brian. I'm a member of the North London group of the Scale 4 Society, and this is our layout Bodmin. The layout was first built in the early 80s, I think, and we started exhibiting at that sort of time. It went out initially for a few days to an odd show to see if it would work, sort of thing, and then from then on it's sort of been on the circuit all those years really, which is a very long time. The layout is set in the mid-1920s. One of our members did some research in that area, so having got the research from somebody, that seemed to be the thing to stick with. So most of what you see is based on that sort of period of time. We tend to modify things a bit to keep things interesting, but in those days there would be a very limited passenger service, which was more or less the same train going backwards and forwards in a short local journey, but the main traffic was freight and particularly China clay. It's basically 4 millimetres to the inch of scale, but the track work is exact scale, so we call that P4, which has got a track gauge of 18.83 millimetres instead of the 16.5 which ordinary 00 uses. So it's really a scale model more than 00 is. Well, because we're working to finer scales, you have to make sure everything's clean, and you've got to make sure that all the measurements are matching each other. Otherwise, things tend to fall off when you don't want them to. You've got one line which goes off to Bodmin and joins up with the southwestern side or the southern side of railway, and the other side went away to the Great and joined up with the main Great Western Railway line. So a lot of the clay traffic was worked up from one line to the other, but because this is a triangular junction in effect, or not a triangle, a V junction, you had to bring stuff in, shuffle it around and send it back the other way. So it meant changing your loco from one end to the other. So a lot of what we're doing is moving stuff around to go from one place to another. And then of course you've got some local traffic, which is also worked into the yard here. The actual station building as such is still there. They have taken out the engine shed as it was and slightly rebuilt it in a slightly different position. But most of the goods yard that you see now, and the goods shed and the yard and the cattle docks, all that has gone, and that's more or less a car park now. A chap called John Haynes built most of the locos, and the coaching stock and the wagons were built by various people. A chap called Roger Cox built all the clay wagons. A chap called Mike Sargent built a lot of the coaching stock. And all the rest of it is owned by various members now, so it's quite a mixture. The signal box that existed, was demolished by British Rail, and then when the preservation group wanted to replace it, they then had no drawings of it. But they actually discovered that in our research we had got the drawings, so they borrowed our drawings to rebuild the signal box, which was quite interesting that the model was able to replace the real thing. Considering it spends a lot of time in storage, it does very well really. It somewhat surprises us that it still goes as well as it does. But it does, and it runs well, so All we need now is people to want to see it so we can take it out more.